Hey, my name is Pierre St. Amand. I'm a Major General in the Royal Canadian Airforce, and I was born in La Sarre, Quebec. From very early on, I was impressed by aviation, and then eventually it turned out to be the military was offering what I was looking for, which was a fast jet type of adventure and experience. It goes back a ways, I guess. I remember my father, we had an uncle in North Bay, Ontario, and my father and my mother took us to see an air show. And I remember being impressed by an air show of military aviation. I think at that time it was CF-101 Voodoos and 104s that were doing slow passes or low passes at very high speed, and that's the picture I have in my mind. And from that point on, I wanted to be a military pilot. I think I started talking about it from such a young age that it was really not a surprise to anyone. I think my mom was a bit worried about me going in the military. But when it finally came down to the point of me leaving to go to a military college, which is a university, I think it was all fine, and everybody was quite happy that I was going to do what I wanted to do. I was transferred to 433 Squadron in Bagotville. So I arrived there and there was practically nobody in the squadron. So I got the call from the commanding officer. He says, "Hey, St. Amand." "Yes, sir." "Get your ass over to Homestead," was the base. I said, "Okay, how do you want me to do that, sir?" He said, "Take a jet and come over tomorrow." Okay. And on arrival, the squadron had set up fire trucks, and as I stepped down the ladder from the aircraft, the fire truck started chasing me and hose me down, essentially, and that was my welcome to the squadron. It didn't stop there. All wet, dripping, water, and it turned me upside down, and I had to drink that beer. I was not pleasant, but from that point on, I was a member of the squadron. And I remember, if you ever sat in the F-18 cockpit at night, it's like a Christmas tree. You got lights everywhere. You have the full cockpit, and it's a glass canopy. So it's almost as if you're flying, in the air, and an aircraft strapped to your back, so to speak. And I remember looking at about 10 o'clock and 10 degree high, and I'm at 40,000 feet, and Halley's Comet was just there. And I remember thinking, my God, this is like the best seat ever to witness such an event. And again, that's something that's been just drilled into my mind that I will never forget. Notwithstanding the fact that it is a state-of-the-art technology as far as aviation is concerned, it is pretty dangerous. I've lost a good 7 colleagues of mine, especially in the early years. So when I started flying fighter aircraft, it was during perhaps the last 5 years of the Cold War, and we trained really hard, expecting that if it was ever to go to serious blows in the Cold War, it would be a tough fight. So we trained really hard. We trained at low level. All of my scary moments essentially occurred in my first posting, as I'm young and inexperienced. And on one of those basic fighter maneuvers, I ended up into a spin on an F-18. And when we train, we have rules. If we lose control of the aircraft at a certain altitude, if we have no signs of recovery, we have to eject. And so that is very well understood by all the folks. It still is very well understood because those are training rules. And got myself into a spin and was not able to recover, and was getting close to the recovery altitude, and I was about to eject when I first saw the sign of recovery. Now, ejection might sound like it's better than crashing, but it is a scary moment as well. You can't, unless you're sitting there and actually thinking about the fact that you're about to eject out of an aircraft that is going to crash to save your life. It's a pretty tense situation. I guess you will recognize that it taught me that you make your own future, and you can't let things shape your own life. You have to shape it yourself. While I was flying, I knew that I could always go and strap on a jet and just fly above the clouds and just forget about everything. So that was peaceful. Especially, in the fighter aircraft, we're absolutely alone in the cockpit, and you get to work and you forget for an hour and a half, which was a typical sortie for training, the rest of the world. This is one of the concepts that you have to revisit once in a while. It's not about pay, although pay allows you to live and feed your family. Of course, it's something that's absolutely necessary. but that is not a reason why one volunteers. Eventually, it has to be about service. It has to be about the reasons why you serve. It is about honoring the traditions and honor the folks that have stepped in your shoes before. And I'm talking about back to World War I, World War II, Korean War, Afghanistan, the Gulf Wars. All those folks that stepped forward and forgot about their own little lives and fought for their country. So it is extremely important to keep reminding ourselves and the folks that even are starting that wearing the uniform comes with a possible huge sacrifice. We have, of course, the Canadian Army and the Royal Canadian Navy that have similar formations doing their own missions. Were we not to have access to these folks, there would be something missing in the security of this country. So, an absolute requirement. Professionals, well-equipped, well-organized. So I'm very proud of all the folks that I have ever met. Some colorful characters for sure. Bright, deliberate in everything that they do. And I am certainly proud to be where I am now, which is to be in command of 1 Canadian Air Division and the operational arm of the Royal Canadian Air Force.